This is a 13 Weather Impact Alert.
We have been tracking severe weather throughout this evening, already a very active evening down near the Indiana-Michigan border, and we're still talking about the potential for some severe thunderstorms in some areas and even a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings that have popped up through the same areas that were experiencing some of those severe thunderstorms just a little bit earlier on. So these just popped up a couple of minutes ago, looking at a severe thunderstorm warning down in northern Branch County, also edging into St. Joe County too. That's going to be remaining in effect until 8:30. So the next about 30 minutes or so. That has the tornado possible tag. If we're able to switch over to computer 2 to be able to kind of show this a little bit closer at what. So here's what we're seeing from our severe thunderstorm warning through St. Joseph County over into Branch County, looking at a tornado possible tag. That's because there is a little bit of rotation associated with this line as it's moving its way east-northeast. Also warned for maximum hail up to 3/4 of an inch in diameter and wind speeds that could be reaching close to the 60-mile-an-hour mark. That's not the only warning that we are seeing, inching a bit further north and east, looking once again into Calhoun County. If you're in the Concha area towards Albion, that's where we're seeing the rain coming down the hardest at this point with still tornado possible tag. That is going to be remaining in effect until 8:45 this evening. So the next about 45 minutes or so is how much longer we'll be seeing this warning specifically. This is also warned for maximum hail up to about 3/4 of an inch in diameter, as well as max wind speeds up to 60 miles an hour. Here's a closer look at what we're seeing inside the storm from our velocity product. This is looking at winds towards and away from the radar. So inbound towards the radar are everything that you see in green. Red is everything that is going away from the radar, and this is looking from the radar that is in Grand Rapids, right out near the airport. What that means is that we're looking for some of these areas that are close to each other with that red and green, so some of those spots where rotation would be anticipated. Looking at that through northern Branch County, and then also a few areas along that line that could see a few spin-ups that are going towards Calhoun County instead. That's where we're seeing these warnings currently in effect, and that will be remaining in effect for the next about 30 to 45 minutes. Here's a loop of this line over the past hour. Now, it has continued to make its way east, east-northeast, really, for its direction, producing heavy rainfall, frequent lightning, and at times strong winds and even some hail. Now, these are not the storms that produced the tornadoes earlier on. That was largely instead from a supercell that was more discrete that made its way largely through Cass, St. Joe, up into Calhoun counties. That has since made its way out of the region entirely, and now it's just this line of rain for the vast majority of West Michigan. It's rain and nothing else, but those areas where we are seeing some bowing segments out along the line, that's where we have some heavier rainfall coming down, frequent lightning, the potential for hail up to 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and winds that could be up to 60 miles an hour. We'll be continuing our weather coverage coming up on our streaming app 13 Plus, which you can download on your TV for free. But for right now, we'll toss it back to regular programming.
This has been a 13 Weather Impact Alert.
Okay. Well, welcome back and thanks for joining us this evening. We are talking still about the potential for strong to severe thunderstorms. We have a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings that have since popped up over just the past about 5 minutes or so. The first one of those being in St. Joseph and Branch counties down into southwest Michigan, but then another that popped up through Calhoun County as well. So this is specifically looking at our severe thunderstorm warning. The first one that popped up through Branch and St. Joseph County. This is going to be for areas such as Colon, unfortunately close to Union City, the area that saw that strong and violent tornado move through just a couple of hours ago. In these areas, we are still seeing severe thunderstorm warning. Tornado possible is a tag that's included within this, but then also maximum hail that's warned for up to 3/4 of an inch in diameter. As far as wind speeds go, especially along those bowing segments, we could end up seeing gusts up to about 60 miles an hour, strong damaging wind gusts, but we could also see a little bit of spin out along that line, producing the potential for a spin-up tornado out along that line as well. Now, this is not the only warning that we're seeing. Inching further north into Calhoun County, Concha areas, also still looking at Union City and over towards Albion. That's where this warning will be remaining in effect until 8:45, so for the next about 40 minutes or so. This line continuing to track further to the east-northeast, also carrying that tornado possible tag with the potential for hail up to about 3/4 of an inch in diameter and winds that could be up to 60 miles an hour. Damaging wind speeds, that possibility of hail. Now, this line continuing to make its way off to the northeast, and that's largely going to be at 45 miles an hour. So this will continue to track and pretty quickly too further and further out of our area over the next about hour and a half or so. Once it's gone, we'll be seeing a fairly quiet evening, but in the meantime, we still have to make sure we're not letting our guard down. After all, we have a couple of these spots where rotation is being detected. Here's one area. This is looking at our velocity product. The red is going away from the radar, green is going towards the radar. So that's where we're detecting a little bit of that counterclockwise rotation. It also looks like we might have just gotten another severe thunderstorm warning that popped up. So I'll zoom out here and we'll take a look at what we've got going on. Currently, it looks like there might have just been a bit of an update. So here's a bit of a closer look at what we're seeing. Yep, it just looks like it was an update from the National Weather Service. Still a tornado possible tag, though, with maximum hail up to 3/4 of an inch in diameter and wind speeds up to 60 miles an hour. This is through the exact same area that saw that violent tornado earlier on this evening, which of course is not great for that area by any means. It was a very dangerous situation. It was considered to be a particularly dangerous situation, which is wording that is only used for strong, violent thunderstorms and tornadic thunderstorms in this case. So that is not language that we take lightly by any means. So we are still continuing to track some of these thunderstorms making their way on through, this time because of a line. Those Boeing segments is where we could end up seeing some of those strongest winds up to 60 miles an hour. I wouldn't be surprised by even a couple of areas. It could be a little bit stronger than that. Also along the line, we can see a little bit of spin in the atmosphere, and that would produce the potential for a weak spin-up tornado. That still is a possibility. We are seeing severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado possible tag, but not tornado warnings at this point. So we have been tracking still a few areas with at least a little bit of rotation. It's not too organized, though. Here's a bit of a bigger picture at what we're seeing across West Michigan. It is a pretty rainy look for much of the area. It's only going to be a few spots that are experiencing some of those louder, bit more violent thunderstorms that could produce some of those more severe impacts, mainly looking at that wind risk, but hail, of course, a possibility, and tornado possible, still included in that tag because of that potential for a little bit of spin in the atmosphere. So for the vast majority of West Michigan, once again, this is just rain. We're actually seeing a good amount of green and maybe even some more light to moderate rainfall following behind that main line. But the main line itself carrying frequent lightning, some seriously heavy rainfall as well, those reds and darker reds that are popping up on reflectivity product as they continue to make their way off to the east. Southwest Michigan, especially as you're getting closer to the state line, that's unfortunately where we've been seeing the roughest evening of all. That's where we saw a couple of storm reports a little bit earlier on, and even some tornado reports too. Tornadoes that were spotted on the ground. It's been a very much so busy and violent evening for some of those areas. So it's really unfortunate that we're seeing some of those warnings popping up in the same areas that had to deal with that not too long ago. So these storms continue to track further off to mainly the east at this point, but still a little bit of an east-northeast trajectory. As those continue to make their way further east at about 45 miles an hour, we will see those leaving the area eventually. And once they do, we should be in the clear heading into tonight. So what we're seeing is a severe thunderstorm warning through Branch County. This is going to be until 8:30 p.m., so the next about 20 minutes, carrying a tornado possible tag and also the potential for hail that could be up to about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. We will also be seeing the chance with that severe thunderstorm warning for winds that could be up to about 60 miles an hour. Now, the other thunderstorm warning that we're seeing, severe thunderstorm warning that we're seeing, is up into Calhoun County that will be remaining in effect until 8:45 this evening. That is going to be for the possibility of hail up to about 3/4 of an inch in diameter as well, and still winds up to 60 miles an hour, mainly for areas closer to north of Union City, Burlington, Teconcha, extending over towards Albion as well. This would be going just south of Marshall. This system will continue to make its way further east as this line continues to trek its way in that direction at about 45 miles an hour. Once again, a little bit of spin out along this line, especially seeing that between about Coldwater and Teconcha. Now, especially looking at our velocity product here, red, once again, going away from the radar, green going towards the radar. So this is indicating a little bit of very broad counterclockwise rotation, which is definitely something that we want to be keeping an eye on. But at this point, seeing severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado possible tags, but at this time, no tornado warnings. This is something that we'll be really keeping a close eye on, though, and making sure to keep you updated.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, especially in that same area, Amber, that, unfortunately dealt with that violent tornado, especially in the Union City area, stretching a little bit to the north and east. It does appear, that was that powerful tornado earlier this afternoon, a little bit west of maybe directly in Union City over Union Lake. But this warning is right over the same area.
Yeah.
Of course, really hope that's not delaying any search and rescue efforts in the Union City area. Of course, we have a crew that's heading in that direction, should be there any minute now, and hopefully we can get a report of what is ongoing there right now. I know they've been trying to block that area off. Of course, that makes sense for first responders trying to just, realize the situation of how many people are still missing. It does appear that at one of the local schools there, that's where they're, having families take shelter, or at least I shouldn't say take shelter, but at least organize their efforts there with trying to evolve if there are any additional missing people in that line of the tornado. But once we get past this, I do think our severe weather risk, at least for a few hours, will calm down.
Bit of a break.
And I will also say, I was just walking a little bit around the building to get a breather, and walking back into this studio, you can feel a little bit of the mugginess.
Oh, yeah.
In this studio, and it's not just because someone tried to turn the heat up or anything. It is starting to feel a little bit warm and muggy out there, and temperatures are still climbing in many spots. We are in the upper 50s. Look at Muskegon. Muskegon is now at 60 degrees.
Jeez.
So it is.
And it's early March.
It's 8/12 on March 6th, and our average overnight low is still in the lower 20s.
Yeah.
We're going to stay around 60 degrees all night long.
Very spring-like.
This is a very abnormal pattern, at least an abnormal night across West Michigan, Southern Michigan. It's 58 right now in Grand Rapids. Look at the dew point. The dew point is nearly at 60, all the way up to I-96. The dew point's at 54 in Ludington. That's just not the type of stuff you see here in early March, especially with a big lake such as Lake Michigan, and there's still ice flowing in portions of Lake Michigan right now.
Yeah, and we've been watching this warm front, not just today, but we've been watching it since yesterday as well, kind of talking about the placement of that warm front really was going to dictate where we ended up seeing enough lift and enough of those ingredients coming together to determine if we were going to see severe weather, and that absolutely happened in this case, bringing in a lot of that warmer air, bringing those temperatures upper 50s. Close to 60 and dew points into the upper 50s as well. Yeah, this is very abnormal for this time of year. We usually talk about March. That's when we kick off severe weather season, and we have certainly kicked it off with quite the bang.
Yeah, and the thing that just got printed here, a little bit outside of West Michigan. This is for Ingham County. Ingham County is where Lansing is located. They are under a flood advisory with some urban and small stream flooding caused by the extensive rainfall earlier over the last several hours and still ongoing in the Lansing area right now. I do think the silver lining here for most of West Michigan is that while we have seen a fair amount of rain today, I believe we are sitting here at WZZM just 2/100ths of an inch shy of 1 inch, at 98/100ths of an inch. So basically an inch of rain today here at our studios in Walker, 3 Mile and Alpine. Those that were near and north of I-96 kind of saw a quick progression of this secondary line of thunderstorms, because what we're seeing a little bit towards Lansing, stretching back maybe even towards Battle Creek, and maybe a little bit of an issue towards the east side of the state. This line is slowing down a little bit, and there's additional rain filling back in behind that main line. However, you can see radar there to the north and west of Grand Rapids. Things are kind of drying out, and we're in that lull of activity. We'll say, you expand the view. This system, there's snow on the backside of this system still, all the way back in the plains into parts of the Dakotas. Again, our focus is going to be thunderstorms that fire up out ahead of the cold front that's currently around the Minnesota, Iowa area. That's what we'll keep an eye on as the night goes on for that second round. But yeah, still contending with that severe thunderstorm warning, though.
Yeah, this line, as it's been moving through, I mean, we're talking 40 to 45 miles an hour is how fast it's been moving through West Michigan specifically. What that means is that, yes, it led to quite a bit of rainfall, but not necessarily training storms as much as what we necessarily were expecting at first. So with it moving so quickly, it made it that flash flooding isn't as much of a concern for right now, at least for West Michigan, but it's already moving at 45 miles an hour as a line. Within those thunderstorms, the outflow boundaries that we end up seeing within those can create some pretty strong winds. Some strong winds, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a tornado like we contended with earlier in these situations. Those
downdraft winds can cause damage as well, and you can argue even a little bit more on an extensive note than an individual tornado. I don't want to discredit what happened earlier with that lone tornadic thunderstorm, but that's kind of how these lines of thunderstorms can go. You can have a bit more in the way of extensive damage with the outflow, as you mentioned. So, something to keep an eye on. I think for many in West Michigan, our atmosphere is stabilizing once again. Yes, we're warming up near 60. It feels a little muggy out compared to, coming off the heels of 5 months of winter. A 60-degree dew point feels a little muggy.
A little different.
60-degree dew point in August might feel refreshing.
Yeah.
So, it's all about perspective. But it does appear we're once this warning pushes out of, Branch, Calhoun County, it will start to work its way to the east side of the state. Just something to keep in mind for friends and family out there, that there could be some additional stronger storms through this evening. But for us in West Michigan, we're going to get a little bit of a lull, at least through a chunk of tonight, before that second round perhaps moves in prior to daybreak.
Yeah, we're still going to be tracking these thunderstorms heading into these next couple of hours. Honestly, the next hour or so is going to be the main time frame that I feel like we're going to be really looking at. Strong winds, hail is a possibility, likely to be less than 3/4 of an inch if we end up seeing that. That tornado possible tag is still, of course, something that warrants attention and something that we'll be watching. But at this point, I do think the vast majority of West Michigan is good for a couple of hours. We've got at least a bit of a break before tomorrow morning when we are seeing the chance for some more thunderstorms. There is still a question of how strong those thunderstorms will be, but
the thing with tomorrow is that we have used up a lot of energy over the course of this evening, even stretching back into the afternoon. We'll see how the atmosphere behaves. It's a little bit of a hard line because we're also factoring in that it is early March and additional storms coming in at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. You would think doesn't present a very fair shot of severe weather, but there will still be around 60, if not even in the lower 60s in the early morning hours. There's a more than fair chance we're going to continue to warm a couple more degrees by the end of the night. The humidity will still be there, and with the forcing of a cold front coming through, you can't disregard those ingredients as they try to stack up a little bit. So that's going to be the focus. Meteorologist Colton Woods will be here all morning long. Newest member of the weekend morning crew as you have transitioned over to weekend evenings. So he'll be up bright and early, ready to go if that does contend to be the case. I will say at the very least tomorrow, we're going to have another round of rain. We're going to have another round of probably thunder and lightning across the area. And then the cold front will come through. And I would say once we get to about midday tomorrow, that's when we all can get a little bit of relief.
Yeah, we can kind of take a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
See quieter conditions through the rest of the weekend past that point.
Past that point. So, that's really the name of the game over the next 24 hours before we can get back to some quieter weather late Saturday and especially on Sunday.
Yeah, we're looking forward to something a little better by the end of the weekend and into the beginning of next week even. But yeah, in the meantime, we've still got plenty to pay attention to into this evening, especially for those areas that are closer to I-94 and mainly east of US 131. That's where we're still seeing some of these warnings. So once again, severe thunderstorm warning that has popped up through Calhoun County. That's going to be for some
right
areas.
Right here, the severe thunderstorm warning for southeastern Calhoun County is canceled.
There we go.
We'll read it right off of the discussion from the Weather Service. The storm which prompted the warning has weakened below severe limits, no longer poses an immediate threat to life or property. Therefore, the warning has been canceled. However, strong thunderstorms with gusty winds, lightning, heavy rain will remain possible in the area through 9 o'clock. The watch still remains in effect until 11 as of now for south central Michigan. So the warning has come to an end for southeastern Calhoun County. I wouldn't be surprised maybe this is going to end for northern Branch County pretty soon as well. Over the next few minutes. And so hopefully that will mean an end to our evening severe weather risk for all of West Michigan and towards those near the state line.
Yeah, we can have a couple of hours of relief before we're talking about tomorrow morning where, it's still the timing of those storms, not exactly conducive for things to be at their strongest by any means. And also a lot of our energy has already been eaten up. So that's going to help us out in that regard for sure. That'll be at least something that's going to really be a benefit to us tomorrow morning. But a couple of hours of a break before that even happens.
By far. Up to you. Should we continue to stream or should we...
I think we can leave radar for people to check on out.
For sure. We're gonna let radar loop here for a few more minutes, just in case if something does pop up over the next 15 minutes or so. But all in all, it does appear our severe weather risk is starting to wane this evening here at home. I know this warning is in our far south and east community. The bulk of West Michigan again hasn't really dealt with much in the way of severe weather today, but we cover everyone, so we want to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. Bottom line, a little bit of rain still left over south and east of Grand Rapids, maybe a few rumbles of thunder, but we should dry out for several hours before that cold front comes through. So we'll let radar loop here on Max 2. We'll let that loop a little bit, and if needed, myself or Amber will come back and present any new information that is needed. So we'll take Max 2 and turn off our mics for a little bit, and if we don't come back and let this stream come to an end, that means that the severe weather risk for now has come to an end. We really appreciate everyone that has been watching us over the course of today, and we'll see you if needed over the coming hour.